Hello, my name is Janice Isbell. I'm the president of JMI Professional Skills Institute, and it is my pleasure to present how to work these miscellaneous math word problems. It is my thought that some have problems on standardized tests because in the classroom you are given the problems to solve that are already set up. But with this video, I hope to help you understand the first of all how to set up a word problem, and then two, how to solve that word problem. But I think most of you know how to solve it once it's set up. So the main goal is to sure you know how to set up math word problems. Okay, these are a few notes just to let you know some of the symbols that I am using, and you may see them different ways, and I want to explain them. That little upside V I call a hat. So X hat square is the same thing. I mean, hat 2 is the same thing as X squared. Or X hat 3 is X to the third power, or X cubed. Okay? Or X, and for the one I'm showing you, you may read it as X to the second power. If you see something that says 2 times 10 hat 3, that means 2 times 10 to the third power. And you'll notice a lot that I use the asterisk for multiplication or the word times. That symbol square root X, that means the square root of X or square root of X, okay? 6/3 means 6 divided by 3. Remember the fraction line, or as in this case, the slash line, always means divide. Again, 3*4 means 3 times 4. Now these are quick positive and negative numbers, quick rules that I always share with people I tutor. And I always say, if the signs are alike, you add and you keep the common sign. So 5 plus 9 equals 14. Since the 5 and the 9 are both positive, your answer has to be positive. -6 minus 8 is a -14 because it's the same thing as a -6 plus a -8. Both signs are negative, so your answer has to be negative. So a -6 plus a -8 equals a -14. So again, when the signs are the same, keep that common sign. But if the signs are different, you subtract. And you keep the sign of the number with the largest absolute value. That is, you keep the sign of the largest number when you ignore the signs. So example, a -11 plus 27 equals 16. And it's positive because if I say 27 minus 11 equals 16, and the sign is positive because 27 has the largest absolute value, and it is positive. Okay? So minus 11 plus 27 is a positive 16. But what if we had 11 minus 27? That's a -16. So I subtract. 21 minus 11 is 16. And in this case, the sign is negative because 27 has the largest absolute value and is negative in this case. Now, I hope you understood that. Now, let's take a look at division and multiplication. If the signs are unlike signs in division and multiplication, your answer is always negative. Okay? If they have like signs in division and multiplication, your answer is always positive. So let's go through all of this. A positive times a negative is negative. A negative times a positive is negative because they unlike signs. A negative divided by a positive is negative. A positive divided by a negative is negative. Those are unlike signs, so your answer will always be negative. But if the signs are alike in multiplication and division, your answer is always positive. A positive times a positive equals a positive. A negative times a negative equals a positive because they are like signs. Let's look at division. Remember I said the slash mark means division? A negative divided by a negative is a positive. A positive divided by a positive is a positive. So I hope you understand that these little notes I'm trying to give you about positive and negative numbers. And if you have to, pause the video and review these examples I have. And if you have a problem, you can always email me. Problem number 1. Bonnie has twice as many cousins as Robert. George has 5 cousins, which is 11 less than Bonnie has. How many cousins does Robert have? The first thing we have to think about is using symbols to set this problem up. You'll see I use algebra a lot, I use proportions a lot, because most times people try to solve these problems in their head, and it's easier if you would just set it up as a problem so that you could see it and then work it out, and that's what we're going to do. The first thing that we know is that Bonnie has 2 times the number of cousins as Robert. So I'm going to say let B equals Bonnie, G is for George, and R is for Robert. That's the first thing you want to do, is set up a letter for each of the elements in your problem. So the first equation we have is that B is equal to 2 times R. We were told that George has 5 cousins, so we say G equals 5. But we also know that George has 11 less than Bonnie, because the problem said that. So you would say G for George is equal to B minus 11. Now we have written everything that we were given in the problem. Next, write down what you're looking for, because when you have multiple steps, people stop before they finish the problem because they didn't actually answer the question. So what they want to know, how many cousins does R or Robert have? And so we would say R equals, and I always just use a question mark, okay? So what do we know? We know that B minus 11 is equal to 5, because look at the 2 Georges. First, George is equal to 5, and George is equal to B minus 11. So we set those 2 equal to each other, okay? So B minus 11 equals 5. Now we want to get that B on the left by itself. Right now we're subtracting 11 from B. So to get B by itself, we have to do the opposite of subtracting 11, which is adding 11. So we're going to add 11 to both sides of the equal sign. The 11s on the left side of the equal sign cancels, leaving B by itself on the left. And then on the right, you have 5 plus 11, which is 16. So one thing we know is that B equals 16. We also know that B is equal to 2R. So we're going to take that 2R and set it equal to 16. Because if B is equal to 2R and B is equal to 16, we could set them two equal to each other. So 2R equals 16. Now what we have to do, the R is being multiplied by 2. 2 is the coefficient, and when you see a number next to a letter, that means multiplication. So the opposite of multiplying by 2 is to divide both sides of the equal sign by 2. Remember, what you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So I put a fraction line and a 2 under each of 2R equals 16. Now remember, the fraction line means divide. So the 2's on the left side of the equal sign cancel, because 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 1 times R is just R. So we have R in red on the left side of the equation. Now we have 16 divided by 2, which is 8. So R is equal to 8. Robert has 8 cousins. Number 2, problem number 2. Oscar sold 2 glasses of milk for every 5 sodas he sold. If he sold 10 glasses of milk, how many sodas did he sell? Now, I always like to set up proportions. So on the next page, we're going to discuss how to set the problem up. Now, we were told that he sold 2 glasses of milk for every 5 glasses of soda. So the ratio of milk to soda is actually 2 to 5. And how you represent that is as a fraction. So milk over soda equals 2 over 5. They told us that they sold 10 glasses of milk. Now they want to know how many glasses of soda, or cans. You can think of it as cans. So I put an X for the unknown, right? So now we're going to cross multiply. What that means is multiply the top of the left side times the bottom of the right side. And that gives us 2 times X, which is 2X. Then you multiply the bottom of the left side times the top of the right side. And 5 times 10 equals 50. We still have to get that X by itself, and right now the X is being multiplied by 2. And the opposite of multiplying by 2 is dividing by 2. And that's what I did. I rewrote the problem, then divided it by 2. So the 2 over 2 cancels, giving us a 1. And 1 times X is X. 50 divided by 2 is 25. So X is equal to 25. Remember, the fraction line is representative of division. So the answer is Oscar sold 25 sodas. We don't know if they're cans, cups, goblets, or what. Okay? But he sold 25 of them. Problem number 3. Oh, I love these kind of problems. Justin earned scores of 82, 92, 95 on his science test. So you say, oh, Mrs. Bell, why you love these kind of problems? Because when I was in college, honey, I had to keep track of my average to determine on the last test or the next test, what did I need to make to maintain a passing grade? So you're going to learn that when you go to college, that we need to keep up with our grades at all times. We don't wait for the professor to tell us what we need to score on the next test. But the bottom line is our goal is to shoot for 100 on each test. That is, do the best that we can at that time. The question says, what does he need to earn on his next science test to have an average, which is the arithmetic mean, of 93%? So again, I'm going to set up a proportion. Well, no, I'm not exactly a proportion, but you'll see on the problem that when I set it up, we're going to let X represent what he needs to make on that fourth test in order for him to have an average of 93%. In order for us to find out the score he needs to make on his fourth test, first, let us think about how do we calculate the average. To calculate the average of your scores, you total all the grades, and then you divide by the number of grades, and then you set that equal to the 93 that he needs to have for his final grade. Okay? So what I have is 85 plus 92 plus 95 plus X, which is our unknown test score, all divided by 4 because we have 4 tests, is equal to 93. 270. So now I added 85 plus 92 plus 95, and the answer is 272 plus X, the one X that's the unknown, all divided by 4. So now we have to set up my good old-fashioned proportions that I love to use and cross multiply. But first I need to tell you all whole numbers have a denominator of 1. So I'm going to put that 93 over 1 so that I can have something to multiply times the 272 plus X. That way you won't get it mixed up. You won't multiply the wrong numbers times the wrong numbers. Okay? So 272 plus X times 1 is 272 plus X. And we set that equal to 4 times 93, which is 372. Now we're trying to get the X by itself. So right now that X is being added to 272. The opposite of adding 272 is subtracting 272. So I subtract the 272 from both sides, okay? So the 272 minus 272 on the left side is 0, and 0 plus X is X. On the right side of the equal sign, because remember what you do to the left side, we subtract the 272, we have to do to the right side of the equal sign. So 372 minus 272 is equal to 100. So X is equal to 100. In other words, Justin must work hard to earn a 100 on his next test. In other words, this boy needs to buckle down to keep a 93% average. Now notice when I say numbers, I reserve the word and for decimals. Some people say 272. That's not true in this case because and is only when you have a decimal point. So the proper way to say it is 272. If it had been 2.72, I would have said 2 and 72 over 100, or 72 100ths. So please remember, do not use the word and unless there's a decimal point. Back to Justin. He has to not do any playing and buckle down to get 100 on his science test. Problem number 4. Brad's class collected 320 cans of food. They boxed them in boxes of 40 cans each. How many boxes did they need? Okay, so let's look at the problem. We collected 320 cans, and the boxes that we have can only hold 40 cans each. So we're going to divide 320 cans by 40 cans per box. Remember, the fraction line means divide, and that equals 8 boxes. 320 divided by 40 equals 8. Problem number 5. Joey participated in a dance-a-thon. His team started dancing at 10 a.m. on Friday and stopped at 6 p.m. on Saturday. How many hours did Joey's team dance? Now, the way I like to do things is I always like to have a picture to help me understand it. So I drew a number line, and on the left I put 10 a.m. Friday to 10 a.m. Saturday, because we know that's 24 hours. Then I said 10 a.m. Saturday to noon Saturday is 2 hours. And then from noon Saturday to 6 p.m. Saturday is 6 hours. So they dance 24 plus 2 plus 6 hours, which is equal to 32 hours. Joey's team danced for 32 hours. Ooh, bet their feet are hurting. Ooh, I remember when I was young enough to participate in these things. Ooh, Lord have mercy. I must have been really crazy back then. But most of the time, we just played volleyball for 24 hours. But either way, we had fun in college. Question number 6. Which expression has an answer of 18? The good thing about having a video is that you can review it over and over and over. So I'm hoping this video is helping you. So to find out which one equals 18, I decided to drive home order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. P parentheses, E exponents, M multiplication, A addition, S subtraction, as some of you may call it PEMDAS. The goal is to, when you have multiplication and division, you always work that left to right because they're considered to be on the same level. And it's the same thing with addition and subtraction. You work those left to right. So I wanted to work each of the answers to help you understand. Answer A, 2 times 5 plus 4. So I have to do the multiplication first. 2 times 5 is 10, and then add the 4 is equal to 14. Answer B, 2 times the quantity of, that means it's in parentheses, and some people would just say 2 times left paren, 4 plus 5, right paren, and paren is short for parentheses. Okay, so that's 2 times the quantity of 4 plus 5. So I have to do those parentheses first. So that would be 5 times 6. And 5 times 6 is 30. D, 4 times 2 plus 5. I have to do the multiplication first. 4 times 2 is 8. Then plus 5 is equal to 13. So the question asks, which equation has an answer of 18? That would be the answer B. 2 times the quantity of 4 plus 5. Problem 7. Callie's grandmother pledged 50 cents for every mile Callie walked in her walkathon. Callie walked 9 miles. How much does her grandmother owe? Now quickly you could say 50 cents times 9 is $4.50. But I wanted to show you when multiplying decimals, you have to sum up the decimal places to determine where the decimal point is in the answer. I know most of you use calculators and it does it for you. But I had a kid who took the ACT and forgot his calculator. But because I made him learn the basics, he was able to get a 25 in the math on the ACT without his calculator. So I thought I would share this with you guys. So I have 50 cents per mile, which is 2 decimal places, times 9 miles, which is 0 decimal places, which is equal to $4.50. So 2 decimal places plus 0 decimal places equals 2 decimal places. So Callie's grandmother owes her $4.50. If you are unsure about this, please review. If you had to calculate this by hand, multiplying and dividing by decimals, okay? Problem 8. What is the square root of 36? Whenever you're doing square roots, cube roots, fourth roots, always ask yourself, what number multiplied times itself gives you that number? So in this case, we want to know what number multiplied times itself equal 36. And from our multiplication facts, we know 6 times 6 equals 36. So the answer, square root of 36 is 6. I know you're saying, oh, but Mrs. Bell, 9 times 4 is 36 also. Yeah. And the square root of 9 is 3. And the square root of 4 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. So either way you try to solve this problem, you can't get it. You can't go wrong if you know your multiplication facts. Just make sure that you always know your multiplication facts no matter what. Always review them so you have them committed to memory. Okay? Problem number 9. Mr. Brown plowed 6 acres in 1 hour. At this rate, how long will it take him to plow 21 acres? Again, this is just the way I do the problems. I always like to set up a proportion, and in this case of acres to hours, and then solve for x. So on the left, he did 6 acres over 1 hour. On the right, he did 21 acres over x. X is what we want to find. Now notice something. In this problem, I have both the acres at top and both the time on the bottom. Sometimes I put both the same thing on the left and right. So either way, keep track of how you're setting your problem up, because if you don't do them correctly, then they'll end up wrong. So I could have set this up as 6 acres over 21 acres equals 1 hour over x. Okay, that's just an alternative way. Okay, so what we're going to do, top left times bottom right, 6 times x, bottom left times top right, 1 times 21. 6 times x is 6x, 1 times 21 is 21. Now notice I want to get the x by itself. Right now the x is being multiplied by 6. So what am I going to do? I'm going to divide both sides by 6. Remember, the fraction line means divide. On the left, 6 over 6 cancels to 1. Or 6 divided by 6 equals 1 times x is x in the red circle. Equals 21 divided by 6 is 3.5, or some people might write it as 3.5, but in decimal form it's 3.5. Okay? Question 10. What is the prime factorization of 84? A prime number, first you got to define it, is a whole number greater than 1 whose only two whole number factors, note whole number factors, are 1 and the number itself. The first few prime numbers are 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, and 29. Why? Because the only numbers that we can divide into them as a whole number factor are 1 and the number itself. So let's answer the question. What is the prime factorization of 84? If you look at question A, 42 is not a prime number, so you know that one is wrong. Strike it out. Look at question, why is 42 not a prime number? Because I can say 2 times 21, 6 times 7. That's why it's good to always know your multiplication facts, okay? B, 4 and 6 are not prime numbers. I can also get for 4, 2 times 2, or I can use 3 times 2 for 6, in addition to 6 times 1. Answer C. We can't use that, even though all these answers equals 42. In this one, 6 is not a prime number. But if you look at answer D, all those are prime numbers. 2 times 2 times 3 times 7 is 84. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 3, 12. 12 times 7, 84. So make sure you know your multiplication facts. I'm going to stress that a lot because a lot of people do not finish their tests because they do not know automatically, committed to memory, their multiplication facts, and have to key everything into their calculator. So to save time, make sure you know your multiplication facts. All right, we're on question number 7. Remember I told you that that little hat symbol, upside down V, means an exponent. So it asks, what is 2 to the 5th power? Note, we want to do 2 times itself 5 times. So 2 to the 5th power is equal to 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 32. Now, if you didn't have your calculator, all you have to do is go 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. Okay? All right. It was a pretty easy one, wasn't it? Problem number 12. The low temperature in Anchorage, Alaska today was a negative 4 degrees F. The low temperature in Los Angeles, California was 63 degrees F. What is the difference in the two low temperatures? Note, difference always involves subtraction. So we know we have to subtract something. So we're going to subtract the low temperature from the high temperature, or high temperature minus low temperature, what gives us 63 degrees minus a negative 4 degrees is equal to 63 plus 4. So where did I get the plus 4? The negative on the outside of the parentheses times the negative on the inside of the parentheses turns that negative 4 into a plus 4. So 63 plus 4 equals 67. So there is a 67-degree difference between a low temperature in Anchorage and a low temperature in Los Angeles. The Robin's Nest nursing home had a fundraising goal of $99,500. By the end of the fundraiser, they had exceeded their goal by $2,100. How much did they raise? First thing, when you say exceeded their goal by, that means add $2,100 to the $9,500. So remember, exceeds means add. So $9,500 or $9,500 plus $2,100 is $11,600. So the total amount they raised was $11,600. That's pretty good, isn't it? Question number 14. Mount Everest is 29,028 feet high. Mount Kilimanjaro is 19,340 feet high. How much taller is Mount Everest? So how much taller means we're going to have to subtract the height of Mount Kilimanjaro from the height of Mount Everest. So 29,028 minus 19,340 equals 9,688. So Mount Everest is 9,688 feet taller than Mount Kilimanjaro. Boy, those are some really high mountains. I am still wondering why people persist in trying to climb them. But everybody's fun is different. Question 15. The area of a square is 64 centimeters square. What is the length of one side of the square? The first thing we need to know that the area of a square is side times side, or side square. So that each side of a square is equal to each other. So we can say that A for area equals 64, given in the problem, which is equal to S squared. Since we have S squared, in order to get S, we're going to have to take the square root of both sides. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So the square root of S squared is S, and the square root of 64 is 8. The length of one side is 8. Question number 16. Mrs. Farrell's class has 26 students. Only 21 were present on Monday. How many were absent? So we just go 26, the total number of students, minus 21, the number of students present, is equal to 5 students were absent. Question 17. Lucy's youth group raised $1,569 for charity. They decided to split the money evenly among 3 charities. How much will each charity receive? Well, all you have to do is take the amount of money they raise divided by the number of charities, which is 3, and you'll get the answer. So, $1,569 divided by 3 is equal to $523. Each charity will receive $523. Jason, question number 18. Jason made 10 two-point baskets and 2 three-point baskets in Friday's basketball game. He did not score any other points. How many points did he score? So the fact that they said he did not score any other points lets me know he was never at the free throw line. So if he scored 10 two-point baskets, I put in parentheses 10 times 2 and then plus, and then he scored 2 three-pointers. So it would be 2 times 3. So 10 times 2 is 20. 2 times 3 is 6. 20 plus 6 is equal to 26. Jason made 26 points. Question 19. Jeff left Hartford at 2:15 p.m. and arrived in Boston at 4:45 p.m. How long did the drive take him? So we take the end time minus the start time, and 4:45 minus 2:15 is 2 hours 30 minutes. Jeff drove 2 hours 30 minutes. Problem 20. Shane rolls a die numbered 1 through 6. What is the probability Shane rolls a 5? Now there's only 1 5 on a die, but you got 6 sides to a die. You got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So on the top, you put the number of chances you can get what you want, and on the bottom, you put the number of numbers that's on the die. And since they didn't say he rolled 2 of them, so we assume it's just 1. So the probability is 1 over 6, or 1/6. Suzanne traveled 114 miles in 2 hours. If she keeps going at the same rate, how long would it take her to go the remaining 285 miles of her trip? First thing we have to do is determine the rate of speed that she is going now. And we know rate is distance over time, right? So she's traveled 114 miles all over. She's traveled for 2 hours. And remember, the fraction line means divide. So 114 divided by 2 equals 57 miles per hour. Okay? Now you take that 285 miles she has to go, you divide that by her rate, because time is equal to distance over rate. And I just changed around the formula that I had for rate up above. So 285 miles divided by 57 miles per hour is equal to 5 hours. That's how long it's going to take Susan to drive the additional 285 miles remaining on her trip. Problem number 22. A flight from Pittsburgh to Los Angeles took 5 hours and covered 3,060 miles. What was the plane's average speed? So to get the average rate of speed, remember on the previous slide I said that's distance divided by the time. So 3,060 miles divided by 5 hours is 612 miles per hour. That was pretty fast. Whew, like flash. Number 23. Larry purchased 3 pairs of pants for $24 each and 5 shirts for $18 each. How much did Larry spend? First, I set it up and I say 3 times 24 in parentheses for the pants he bought, then plus in parentheses 5 times the $18 for each shirt he bought. So 3 times 24 is 72. 5 times 18 is 90. 72 plus 90 equals $162. Remember I told you don't use the word and unless you have a decimal point. Larry spent $162. How many square? Problem number 24. Let me state the problem number first. How many square centimeters are in 1 square meter? Note, 1 square meter equals 1 meter times 1 meter. And we know that 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. So the first box, I show it as 1 meter by 1 meter. I show that same box as 100 centimeters by 100 centimeters, since we know that 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. And we multiply, just like you had 1 square meter, you multiply 1 meter times 1 meter. To get square centimeters, you're going to have to multiply 100 centimeters times 100 centimeters. And that answer is 10,000 square centimeters, or centimeters square. You could pronounce that either way. Question number 45. Raul's bedroom is 4 yards long. How many inches long is the bedroom? I always like to set up a proportion, as you probably know by now. But first I want you to know that 1 yard equals 36 inches. So notice I put 1 yard at the top on the left and 36 inches at the top on the right. But we want to know how long is 4 yards. So I put the 4 yards under the 1 yard, and X is what we're looking for under the 36 inches because we want our answer in inches. Now we have to cross multiply. So we would say 1 times X is equal to 4 times 36. 1 times X is equal to X. 4 times 36 is 144 inches. So Raul's bedroom is 144 inches long. Problem number 26. Jeff burns 500 calories per hour bicycling. How long will he have to ride to burn 750 calories? Again, we're going to set up a proportion and then cross multiply. So for 500 calories, he can burn in 1 hour. So on the top left, I have 500 calories, and on the top right, I have 1 hour. On the bottom left, I got the 750 calories that the question is asking about on the left, and on the right, bottom right, I have the x for the time we are looking for. So when we cross multiply, we get 500 times x is equal to 1 times 750. So 500x equals 750. But we have to divide both sides by 500 because the x is being multiplied by 500. And the opposite of multiplying by 500 is dividing by 500. So the two 500s on the left cancel. So 500 divided by 500 is 1 times x is x. 750 divided by 500 is equals 1.5 or 1.5. Question 27. The temperature at 6 p.m. was 31 degrees F. By midnight, it had dropped 40 degrees F. What is the temperature at midnight? Now note the words had dropped 40 degrees. That means you're going to take the temperature at 6 p.m. and you're going to subtract 40 degrees because it dropped. It dropped. If it had risen, you would have added 40 degrees. So when we set this up, as I said, dropped means subtract. 31 degrees minus 40 degrees equals 31 minus 40, which is a negative 9 degrees F. Question number 28. The total ticket sales for a soccer game were $1,260. 210 tickets were purchased. If all the tickets are the same price, what was the cost of a ticket? Again, we're going to set up a proportion. On the top left, I put $1,260. Top right, $210. And then on the left, I put the X because I don't know how much an individual ticket, and on the bottom right, I put one ticket. Now, some of you would have known right away just to divide, but for those who struggle, it is easier setting up these proportions, because you go by what you have, what is given, what is known, to find the unknown. In this case, the price or cost of a ticket. So we cross multiply. 1 times 1,260 equals 210 times x. The x is being multiplied by 210, so we're going to have to divide both sides by 210. Again, what you do to the left, you have to do to the right side of the equal sign. And remember, the fraction line means to divide. So on the left, 1,260 divided by 210 is equal to 6. And then the 210 over the 210, or 210 divided by 210 is 1 times x is x. So each ticket cost $6. Question 29. Sherman took his pulse for 10 seconds and counted 11 beats. What is Sherman's pulse rate in beats per minute? Again, we're going to set up a proportion. We know that, and this one's a little different, so I just show you the different way we could set up proportions. So on the left, I have 11 beats per 10 seconds. So the 11 beats all over 10 seconds. And we're looking for x beats for a minute. Well, we know a minute is 60 seconds. So since we were given seconds in the problem, we have to convert that minute to seconds. So we'd say cross multiply. 10 times x equals 11 times 6. 10 times x is 10x. 11 times 60 is 660. So I'm going to divide both sides by 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1 times x gives me the x. 660 divided by 10 equals 66 beats. So his heart rate or pulse is 66 beats in a minute. Okay? Question number 30. Jennifer flipped a coin 3 times and got heads each time. What is the probability that she gets heads on the next flip? Note, flips are independent of previous events. In other words, no matter what happened before, this event has a certain probability. And it is 1 over 2 because on a coin, there's a head side and a tail side. So you got 2 sides. So the heads have a probability of 1 over 2, just like tails has a probability of 1 over 2. Question 31. Jody's English scores are 56, 93, 72, 89, and 87. What is the median of her scores? Note, the median is the middle number for an odd number of numbers. For example, if I had 5, 7, 9, 7 would be the middle number. But if you have an even number of numbers, for example, 6, 8, 10, and 12, you would have to find the average of the 2 middle numbers. So the 2 middle numbers would be 8 and 10, and the average of 8 plus 10, 18, divided by 2 is 9. 9 would be the median for those numbers. Okay, so now what we have to do is take Jody's English scores and list them from smallest to largest in ascending order. 56, 72, 87, 89, 93. The middle number, or the median, is 87. Question 32. What is the greatest common factor of 24 and 64? Okay, the greatest common factor is the largest number for which 2 numbers can be divided equally. Now, the easy way to do it for those who may not know their multiplication facts, and people, you're going to have to know your multiplication facts, is to break it all down to prime numbers. So 24 broken down to a prime number, you see as written. Then I broke 64, a factor, shall I say, 64 into its prime numbers. And then you circle the ones that are common. We have 3 2's that are common to 24 and 64. So 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. You multiply those common factors. So the greatest common factor for 64 and 24 is 8. Question 33. 12 co-workers go out for lunch together and order 3 pizzas. Each pizza is cut into 8 slices. If each person gets the same number of slices, how many slices will each person get? So we have 3 pizzas times 8 slices per pizza equals 24 pieces that are available for these workers to eat. So it's 12 workers. So we have 24 pieces of pizza divided by 12 workers is equal to 2 pieces of pizza per worker. See, I wouldn't have gone to that dinner because I want to eat more than 2 pieces of pizza. All right, that's the end of that problem. Question 34. Marvin is helping his teachers plan a field trip. There are 125 people going on the field trip, and each school bus holds 48 people. What is the minimum number of school buses they will need to reserve for the trip? You have let's set up a proportion. So 48 people over one bus is equal to 125 people over X number of buses. Cross multiply 48 times X equals 1 times 125. So 48X equals 125. Now the X is being multiplied by 48, and the opposite of multiplying by 48 is dividing by 48. So the 48s on the left side cancel, leaving just X, and 125 divided by 48, X is equal to 2.6. But you can't buy a piece of bus, so we must order 3 buses. Question 35. Which number in the answer choices below is not equivalent to the other members? So we know that 0.6 is the same thing as 6 over 10, which is equal to 3 over 5. We also know that 60% equals 60 over 100, which is equal to 6 over 10, which is equal to 3 over 5. And then we have 3 over 5, or 3/5. And we know that 6% is equal to 6 over 100, which reduces to 3 over 50. So the first 3, A, B, and C, all reduce to 3/5. But D does not reduce to 3/5. It reduces to 3 over 50. So you would select D. Lance has 70 cents. Question number 36. Lance has 70 cents. Margaret has 3/4 of a dollar. Guy has 2 quarters and a dime. And Bill has 6 dimes. Who has the most money? Well, first we know Lance has 70 cents. They tell us that Margaret has 3/4 of a dollar. So you multiply, because the word of means multiply, 3 over 4 times 100, and you get 75 cents. Because we had $1 is 100 cents. It says no, 1/4 equals 25 cents. So Guy has 2 quarters, or 2 times 25, and 1 dime, or 1 times 10. 2 times 25 equals 50, plus the 1 times 10 is 10, 50 plus 10 equals 60 cents. Margaret has 60 cents. I'm sorry, Guy has 60 cents. Margaret has 75 cents. Now it says Bill has 6 dimes. A dime is worth 10 cents. So 6 times 10 is 60 cents. So of the 4, Lance has 70, Margaret 75, Guy 60, Bill 60. Margaret has the most money, 75 cents. Question number 37. The students at Norton School were asked to name their favorite type of pet. Of the 430 students surveyed, 258 said that their favorite type of pet was a dog. Suppose that only 100 students were surveyed with similar results. About how many students would say that a dog is their favorite type of pet? First, you have to calculate the percentage of students who stated their favorite pet is a dog. So what we do is say 238 divided by 430, or 238 as a fraction, over 430 is equal to 0.55, or 55%. To get the percent, you just multiply the 0.55 times 100. And I could have set up a proportion also, but I chose to do it this way. Second, multiply whatever decimal you get times 100, because this time the 100 is the 100 students we surveyed a second time. Okay, so if it's 55%, when we surveyed 430 students, to find out how many students will select the dog as their favorite type of pet, we're going to multiply that 0.55 times 100, which is 55 students. So I hope I did not confuse you. So they had a survey of 430 students. 238 said they liked the dogs. We said that was 55% of the students. But we have to multiply that times the 100, that if we were to survey only 100 with similar results, that means the same percentage. Similar results means the same percentage. So 0.55 or 0.55 times 100, 55 students would say out of 100 that the favorite type of pet is a dog. Question 38. A group of 5 friends went out to lunch. The total bill for the lunch was $53.75. Notice I use the word "and" because there's a decimal point there. $53.75. Their meals all cost the same, so they wanted to split the bill evenly. Without considering tip, how much should each friend pay? You're going to divide the total of the bill, $53.75, divided by 5, because we have 5 friends. And the answer is $53.75 divided by 5 is equal to $10.76. Each must pay $10.76. I am definitely sure I would want more than 2 pieces of pizza. So I am hoping that at this lunch, that if I was at this lunch, I was able to look at a menu and get some additional items to eat with my 2 measly pizza. But then again, if I was on a diet, 2 pieces probably would be sufficient. And then again, I would have to see how big these pizzas are. But the answer to this question, number 38, is $10.76. Question 39. The value of a computer is depreciated over 5 years for tax purposes, meaning that at the end of 5 years, the computer is worth $0. If a business paid $2,100 for a computer, how much will it have depreciated after 2 years? Now, depreciation is the decrease in value. So when you order a piece of equipment and it decreases in value, you can take that off your income taxes, okay? And what you see here is what they call straight line depreciation. That is, you divide the price of the piece of equipment by 5, and at the end of 5 years it's worth 0 value, so you cannot deduct it from your taxes, okay? So here's what we have. Again, my trusty proportion. On the left, $2,100 over 5 years. On the right, X over 2 years. So I want to know how much will I have depreciated at the end of 2 years. Cross multiply. 5 times X equals 2 times $2,100. Now I have 5X equals $4,200, right? But I have to divide both sides of the equation by 5 because the X is being multiplied by 5, and the opposite of multiplying by 5 is dividing by 5, and the fraction line means what? Divide. So 5X divided by 5 is X. $4,200 divided by 5 is $840. So after 2 years, they will have depreciated $840. Question number 40. Steve earned a 96% on his first math test, a 74% on his second test, and an 85% on his third test. What is his test average? We're going to add up all the test scores and divide them by 3 since there are 3 test scores given. 96 plus 74 plus 85 is equal to 255, and then divided by 3. That's 85%. 255 divided by 3 is 85. And I also give you a little math quiz there. If you think you could solve for A and B in this puzzle, email me. Let me see what you can do. Put math puzzle in your subject area. Go for it. Let's see what happens. How many people can solve it? Question 41. A national park keeps track of how many people per car enter the park. Today, 57 cars had 4 people, 61 cars had 2 people, and 9 cars had 1 person, and 5 cars had 5 people. What is the average number of people per car rounded to the nearest person? So what we're going to do is we're going to total the number of people, and then we're going to divide that total by the number of cars. So we're going to set up in parentheses, or I sometimes say the quantity of, that means in parentheses, the quantity of 57 times 4 plus the quantity 61 times 2 plus the quantity 9 times 1 plus the quantity 5 times 5. Okay? So you say, where you get those numbers from? I got it from the problem. It said 50 cars had 4 people, so that's why I put 57 cars had 4 people. That's why I have 57 times 4, etc. On the bottom, I added up the number of cars. 57 plus 61 plus 9 plus 5. So then I completed what was in the parentheses. 57 times 4, 228. 61 times 2, 122. 9 times 1, 9. 5 times 5, 25. I summed the total number of cars to 132. I summarized the number of people in those cars as 384 divided by 132 cars. Remember, the fraction line means divide. And the answer I got was 2.9. But they say rounded to the nearest person. That means whole number. So 3 people on average is in a car. So the average number of people per car is 3 people. Question 42. A large pipe dispenses 750 gallons of water in 50 seconds. At that rate, how long will it take to dispense 330 gallons? First, we have to calculate the rate of dispense of this pipe. Okay? So I kind of set it up as a big tank with a little spigot on it, just to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. Not necessarily look like that, but that's one way to think of it. So first we calculate the rate of dispense. So it's 750 gallons per 50 seconds. 750 divided by 50 is 15. So the rate is 15 gallons per second. Second, we divide the 350 gallons that we need to dispense by the rate. 330 divided by 15 equals 22. So it takes 22 seconds at 15 gallons per second to dispense 330 gallons. Question 43. The light on a lighthouse blinks 45 times a minute. How long will it take the light to blink 405 times? Again, first we would calculate the rate of the blinking, but we were given this in terms of minutes already, so we know that that is equal to 45 times per minute. Second, we divide 405 times by the rate. So we set up our equation, 405 times all over 45 times per minute, which is equal to 9 minutes. So 405 divided by 45 equals 9. Question number 44. A die is rolled and a coin is tossed. What is the probability that a 3 will be rolled and a tail tossed? Well, you would have to multiply the probabilities of each and then multiply them times each other. So the probability of getting A 3 on a dice is 1 over 6, and a tail on a coin is 1 over 2. So the answer is 1 over 12. Question number 45. Wendy has 5 pairs of pants and 8 shirts. How many different combinations can she make with these items? Now, there's different ways on the test. You may see the formula for a combination. It's a big C with a little n at the top and K at the bottom. And what that means, the combination of, say, in this case, 5 shirts taken one at a time, or 8. So the 5 would be the n and 1 would be the K. And the formula says you do n factorial all over K factorial times n minus 1 factorial. But in this case, we have 5 taken one at a time. Anytime you got something taken one at a time, it'll always be that something. So, but I wrote it out just to show you what 5 factorial was, 1 factorial, and 4 factorial, 8 factorial, 7 factorial, and how the 1 over 1, 2 over 2, 3 over 3, etc. cancel out, and you come up with 5 for one side for the combination of pants, and 8 for the combination of shirts. And since you're only taking them one at a time, that's why it comes out to 5 and 8. And you just multiply those two. 5 times 8 is 40. So with 5 pairs of pants and 8 shirts, you actually have 40 combination of outfits. That's what it was asking you when it says how many combinations can she make with these items. That sounds like a good wardrobe, doesn't it? Question number 46. Audrey measured the width of her dining room in inches. It is 150 inches. How many feet wide is her dining room? Note, 1 foot equals 12 inches. So we're going to set up a proportion. So 150 inches is the current width of her dining room all over X. And we know 12 inches is 1 foot. We're trying to find out how many feet is in 150 inches. So we set up our proportion and we cross multiply. 12 times X equals 150 times 1. So 12x equals 150. Now we have to divide both sides by 12. Remember, the fraction line means divide. So we have x, because the two 12s cancel on the left, and 50 divided by 12 is 15. So Audrey's dining room is 15 feet wide. That's a pretty big dining room, isn't it? Question number 47. Sharon wants to make 25 half-cup servings of soup. How many ounces of soup does she need? So you would say 25 times 1/2, that's 1/2 cup, times 8 ounces in a cup gives us she needs 100 ounces of soup. Okay, so 25 1/2 cups, so you say 25 times 1/2 and times 8 ounces in a cup gives us 100 ounces. Number 48. Justin weighed 8 pounds 12 ounces when he was born. At his 2-week checkup, he had gained 8 ounces. What was his weight in pounds? Now remember, you got 8 pounds plus 12 ounces added to 8 ounces. 8 plus 12 is 20 ounces, but remember it's 16 ounces in a pound. So we carry 1 for 16 and put down a 4 for the ounces. And then we add that 1 we carry to the 8, so we have 9 pounds, 4 ounces, and that's his weight when he went for his 2-week checkup. Question number 49. 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters, or 2 54/100 centimeters. The dimensions of a table made in Europe are 85 centimeters wide by 120 centimeters long. What is the width of the table in inches, round to the nearest tenth of an inch? So we have to convert the 85 centimeters to inches. So we say 2.54 centimeters per inch is equal to 85 centimeters per x inches. So we cross multiply 2.54 times x equals 1 times 85. Well, right now, so the 2.54x equals 85. So we have to divide both sides by 2.45 because the x is being multiplied by 2.54. And what's the opposite of multiplying? We divide. So x is equal to 33.5 inches, or approximately 34 inches. But of course, they say to the nearest tenth, you would use 33.5. Okay? But if they said whole inch, you'd say 34. Question number 50. A bag contains 3 red, 6 blue, 5 purple, and 2 orange marbles. 1 marble is selected at random. What is the probability that the marble chosen is blue? To set up the probability of the marble that is blue, you have to put the number of marbles all over, that means a fraction line when I say the word all over, the total number of marbles. From the question we learned there are 6 marbles total blue marbles. Then on the bottom we got to add all the marbles. 3 plus 6 plus 5 plus 2. Okay, so now when we add all the bottom, we get 16. Now we have to determine, because they both even numbers, I know they can be reduced. They both can be divided by 2. Anytime you have even numbers, you just keep dividing by 2 till you reduce it, unless you know your multiplication facts and find the greatest common factor. But in this case, 2 works really well. So 6 over 16 reduces to 3 over 8. Again, we put the total number of blue marbles all over total numbers of all marbles. Okay? Question number 51. The operator of an amusement park game kept track of how many tries it took participants to win the game. The following is the data from the first 10 people. These are their number of tries. 2, 6, 3, 4, 6, 2, 8, 4, 3, 5. What is the median number of tries it took these participants to win the game? Note, The median is the middle number for an odd number of numbers. For example, if I had 5, 7, and 9, 7 is the median number. But if I have an even number of numbers, I have to take the average of the two middle numbers. For example, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Well, then I would add 8 plus 10 and divide it by 2, and 9 would be the median. And that's just a coincidence that for odd number of numbers, I actually used odd numbers, and for even number of numbers, I actually used even numbers. But I think you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. So the first thing we have to do is list all of the numbers from smallest to largest. This is called ascending order. When they ask you to list the numbers in ascending orders, that means smallest to largest. Descending would be from largest to smallest. So ascending order, the numbers are 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 6, 8. We circle the two middle numbers. It's 4 and 4. Of course, the average of 4 and 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. Divided by 2 is just 4. So the median is 4. And this is a coincidence that we have two 4s in the middle. Okay? Number 52. Max goes to the gym every 4th day. Ellen's exercise routine is to go every 3rd day. Today is Monday, and both Max and Ellen are at the gym. What will the day of the week be the next time they are both in the gym? So the first thing I did was set up like a mini calendar. Everybody does it differently. And I put in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday because they said Monday was the current day. And I counted 4 days and put an M. Then counted 4, and that landed me on Friday. I counted 4 days, and that landed me on Tuesday, and put an M. I counted 4 days again, and that landed me on Saturday, so I put an M. Then I went back and started an E on this first Monday for Ellen. I counted 3 days, put an E. I landed on Thursday. Counted 3 days, I landed on Sunday and put an E. Counted 3 days again, I landed on Wednesday and put an E. And then I did 3 days again and I landed on a Saturday and put an E. So the next time both Max and Ellen are together at the gym is the next week is Saturday. Question number 53. Danny is a contestant on a TV game show. If he gets a question right, the points for that question are added to his score. If he gets the question wrong, the points for that question are subtracted from his score. Danny currently has 200 points. If he gets a 300-point question wrong, what will be his score? Or what will his score be? Well, currently he has 200 points. And since he missed the question, I have to subtract 300 points. So 200 minus 300 equals negative 100. And that's the answer, negative 100. Question number 54. Write 3.5 times 10 to the 4th power in decimal notation. So the first thing you have to do is write 3.5 and move the decimal point 4 places to the right, 10 to the 4. So we're going to move the decimal point 4 places to the right. If it had said, this is scientific notation, -4, then we would have gone 4 places to the left, but it says a +4, 10 to the +4. So 3.5 times 10 to the 4th power in decimal notation equals 35,000. So I moved the decimal point 4 places to the right, and which makes it come behind that third zero, which is 35,000. Question number 55. The Ravens played 25 games this year. They had 9 losses and 2 ties. How many games did they win? So, first we know they played 25 games. They tied 9. Lost 9 and tied 2. So I'm going to have to subtract that 9 and that 2 from 25. And the answer is 14. The Ravens won 14 games. Question number 56. The temperature at midnight was 4 degrees F. By 2 a.m. it had dropped 9 degrees F. What is the temperature at 2 a.m.? So what we're going to have to do is the start temperature minus 9 degrees F. Now, dropped 9 degrees F means you're going to subtract 9 degrees from what it started with. It started at 4 degrees F minus 9 degrees F. The current temperature at 2 a.m. is a -5 degrees F. And if you get confused about positive and negative numbers, I'm going to add a sheet to this presentation, probably at the begin. Refer back to the sheet that I've added at the beginning of this presentation. I will add a positive and negative exercise for you to go through and make sure you understand how to do that. Question number 57. Find the next number in the following pattern: 320, 160, 80, 40. First, you have to divide the numerical pattern. And the first thing I noticed was if I divide 320 by 2, I get the 160. If I divide the 160 by 2, I get 80. And if I divide the 80 by 2, I get 40. So now I know the pattern. So to find the answer or the next number in the pattern, I divide 40 by 2, and the answer is 20. This was a pretty easy pattern to determine, but sometimes they're complex, but this is a good one. Question number 48. Which of the following terms does not describe the number 9? Let's discuss each one first. A prime number is a number in which it can only be divided by itself and the number 1. And we discussed that before about a prime number. An integer is a positive or negative whole number, including 0. Real numbers consider all of the numbers: natural numbers, integers, rational, real, algebraic, real. So it includes everything: positive, negative, 0, square roots, fractions, pi, symbols like pi, e, different things like that. So when we talk about numbers, all numbers are real numbers, okay? Of course, except for our imaginary numbers. That's a whole nother discussion, okay? But for today, We know what a prime number is. We've discussed what an integer is, and we discussed that real number includes them all, okay? And then a whole number, if you look at a number line, integers are all the counting numbers, not fractions. Counting numbers, positive and negative, including 0, right? But whole numbers is 0 and the positive counting numbers, okay? An integer is always a whole number. You won't find 1.5 as an integer, okay? 1.5 is actually a rational number, okay? So probably on the next slide, I'll give a little more information in different formats that you can possibly understand, okay? But the answer for this question is that 9 is not a prime number because we can divide it by 1, 9, and 3, and the answer would be a whole number, okay? Or an integer. Question number 58 further explained, as I said I would do. So you see at the top you have all numbers. The next thing you have is complex number. A complex number can be either real or imaginary. Real numbers can either be a rational number or an irrational number. And you could see on the previous slide examples of a rational number. But I wanted to further explain irrational numbers, which you saw on the previous slide. Irrational numbers are numbers that cannot be represented as a simple fraction. So it's a decimal that never repeats, such as pi, 3.1415926, etc. Or if you take a decimal like the square root of 2 and you look at it on a calculator, then it would have, 1 point some, okay? But that's what an irrational number. Whole numbers are not irrational and integers are not irrational. Why? Because all numbers have a denominator of what? 1. So I can represent the number 5 as 5 over 1, or the number 6 as 6 over 1. So that's why it's a rational number. But irrational numbers cannot be represented as a simple fractions. And simple fractions is just a fraction of the lowest term, okay? Now, an imaginary number is represented by the lowercase I, and it's usually in the italics form. I is equal to the square root of a -1. So if you see 6 and italics I, that means 6 times the square root of a -1. I squared is just the square root of a -1 times the square root of a -1, which is a -1. So I squared is equal to a -1. So you always hear, well, you cannot take the square root of a negative number. You can, but in lower level math, we do not do that, okay? So I hope you understand the difference between numbers, complex numbers, imaginary numbers, real numbers, rational numbers, irrational numbers, integers, whole numbers, and then natural numbers. And these two slides together should be able to give you a great example of each of these two types of numbers. And I would recommend you spend a little time learning the different types of numbers, because what kills a lot of people in math is they don't know vocabulary. So if they ask you, is 9, which one of these terms don't apply to 9, and you don't know what is a prime number, an integer, a real number, a whole number, you could not answer this question. Okay? I hope I made that clear as mud. Question number 59. Which expression below is equal to 5? Question number 59. Which expression below is equal to 5? I worked out each expression in hopes that you understand PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. And I think I've discussed this somewhere before. So first we do the parentheses in A. 1 plus 2 is 3. And then we raise 3 to the second power, and the answer is equal to 9. Okay? Next, we do B. 9 minus 2 squared is equal to 9 minus, I do the exponent first because it comes before subtraction. So 9 minus 4 equals 5. C. 11 minus 10 times 5. I have to do the 10 times 5 first because multiplication comes before subtraction. So 11 minus 50 equals a negative 39. D. 45 divided by 3 times 3. Well, multiplication and division are considered on the same level. And when you have both, you work them left to right. Okay? So 45 divided by 3 is 9. Times 3 equals 27. So the answer for this problem, which expression below is equal to 5, is B. 9 minus 2 squared, or 2 to the second power, is equal to 5. Okay? So make sure you know that you work left to right. If you only thing you have left is multiplication, division, they on the same level, you work them left to right. Addition and subtraction is on the same level. You work left to right. Okay? Question number 60. A bus picks up a group of tourists at a hotel. The sightseeing bus travels 2 blocks north, 2 blocks east, 1 block south, 2 blocks east, and 1 block south. Where is the bus in relation to the hotel? So if you look at the diagram and you start with the hotel and you go up to, east to, which is to your right, south to, which is down, and then 2 blocks east again to your right, and down 1 block, you find out that they are just 4 blocks from the hotel. So, in other words, they could have walked it, huh? But the reason they didn't walk this trip is because it's a sightseeing bus. So you see everything outside the bus and they tell you about it. So this bus travels 2, 4, 5, 7, 8 blocks around this hotel in total to just show you some things in that particular city. So in other words, look at the diagram and see why they didn't just walk the 4 blocks. But they are, if they wanted to get off the bus right now, the person could just walk 4 blocks to the hotel, 4 blocks back to the hotel, and then the bus continue on its trip. Question number 61. Each week, Jamie saves $25. How long will it take her to save $350? $350. So we have to divide the $350 that she wants to save, divided by $25 a week. It will take her 14 weeks. So you say, well, what does she want to do with $350? I don't know, but say you want to buy a game that costs $350 and your allowance is $25 a week. Or you mow lawns and you get $25 a week. In 14 weeks, a little less than 4 months or 3.5 months, you will have the $350. Okay? And always remember that the fraction line means divide. Okay? Question 62. Ashley's car insurance cost her $115 per month. How much does it cost her per year? Note, 1 year equals 12 months. So we would multiply 115 times 12 equals $1,380. Question 63. The ratio of boys to girls at the dance is 3 to 4. That means 3 boys for every 4 girls. There were 60 girls at the dance. How many boys were at the dance? Always my little trusty proportion. Set up a proportion. Consider that the ratio symbol is that colon. Consider that as a fraction sign, okay? So we would have boys to girls is equal to 3 over 4. Boys over girls equals 3 over 4, which is equal to x over 60. Because we know how many girls, we just don't know how many boys. So we cross multiply, and we get 4 times x equals 3 times 60, which is equal to 4x equals 180. Now we take that fraction line, the fraction line always means divide. So what we're going to do now is 4x equals 180, and we're going to divide both sides of this equation by 4, because currently the x is being multiplied times 4, and the opposite of multiplying by 4 is dividing by 4. So 4x divided by 4, because the 4's cancel, equals x. 180 divided by 4 equals 45. So that there are 45 boys at this dance, in addition to 60 girls. Okay?